My first glimpse at Yaiba Ninja Gaiden was at Gamescom last year, where in a tiny 4-screen booth stood a PR guy seemingly uninterested in approaching anyone. There sat 3 teenage German kids behind closed doors which demanded the press don't take photos. I knew something was up. It's as if they didn't want anyone but their intended demographic getting a glimpse at the vulgarity of what Temco Koei had produced. It's a vulgarity that spreads across poor design philosophies, shameless cashing in, and tasteless writing that outside of House of the Dead overkill has no real place in a game of this genre, especially not one shipping at the staggering price of £49.99 in the UK. Yaiba is a game exceptionally mismanaged, and it's as though Temco Koei haven't even bothered to publish it properly. Everyone's merely ticked all the boxes, and that's a theme that persists throughout its fibre. That being said, I respect Yaiba as a reboot more so than I respect Hitman Absolution, Thief or Tomb Raider, primarily due to one primary factor. You don't play as the original game's protagonist, Hayabusa. Whilst Yaiba certainly steals the Ninja Gaiden brand, it merely references its lead without completely changing his character and making him practically two-dimensional like Thief's new Garrett. They left Hayabusa alone, and for all intents and purposes, they've left Ninja Gaiden alone. This isn't really Ninja Gaiden, it's Yaiba, and like in the first episode of The Cleveland Show, its predecessor sticks around only for the first episode just to convince everyone it's really worth their time. It's not. Despite being priced almost as though someone from Koei face-planted the keyboard, Yaiba feels cheap and nasty in every conceivable way, sharing the same sense of humour as the worst Police Academy and Lethal Weapon movies, with voice acting that screams Japanese game for American kids. Yaiba feels as though it had been developed on a budget tighter than Hayabusa's jockstrap. To be fair, some of the puns cracked a smile on my face here and there, but they milk it to the extent that almost every encounter features a Borderlands 2 style splash screen and pun, as though frequently appearing hip is more important than the flow of action. And whilst at first you might get a little thrill from each of the mini-boss puns, the same bosses are then tossed at you over and over in what you could easily have predicted would be mindless filler. Yaiba has only 2 things going for it, but they're minor and wear down pretty thin. Firstly, the sense of momentum when scaling buildings is pretty awesome and captures that comic book feel quite well, and secondly, Yaiba is a seriously visceral hack and slash. Slashing through swarms of zombies at first is a good stress reliever, but when you work out that that's the majority of the game, it sort of sucks the fun out of it.
As to man Yaiba, I have always preferred women's underwears to men's.
That's really all Yaiba packs for its £50 punch. A couple of puns, some nice campy sound effects and visceral combat. But don't mistake visceral combat for good combat. Yaiba is supremely simpler than its predecessor, requiring the bare minimum mechanics for success. Slash, chain whip, grab and block. Float around, roll around, slash everything and win. There are a few times when Yaiba shows some unique intrigue, such as certain enemy elements affecting your cyborg body though, but again this isn't nearly enough to solve its problems. Getting fried by electricity will disable your right hand, and corrosive materials will blind you and disable your left hand. That's pretty cool, but ultimately doesn't affect combat enough to be a major mechanic so much as a neat little observation. Where Yaiba becomes unplayable for me is through the inability to control the camera. We're talking N64 platformer here, cameras getting caught on the walls, cameras zooming in too close to Yaiba so you can't see anything around you, and being stuck in a zone because you need to cut down one more enemy but you can't fucking see him because he's 300 yards away and the camera will only point in one fucking direction. This makes any ranged attacks and skills completely useless. For that reason alone, Yaiba is an incredibly frustrating experience, and one that I won't be able to complete. I consider that game-breaking, but it's entirely up to you. There technically is a skill tree, so as you level up you can unlock perks and a few more attacks here and there, but there aren't many and you can unlock them very quickly. You can also gain weapons from fallen enemies, tearing their limbs off and using them for a limited time after a fight, and that's pretty cool. Puzzle fans, there's something for you too, as using the chain whip to grab enemies and throw them at the environment makes for the bulk of the game's puzzles, which are needless and at times frustrating, if only because that's not what you play this kind of game for. Tossing an enemy into a truck to drive into a building and open up an entrance feels so incredibly misplaced in a Ninja Gaiden game, and it stinks of that janky, campy goodness you'd find in a budget Wii game, not a £50 release on PC. Now, some people are calling Yaiba a contender for worst game of 2014, and I don't really agree with that. If Yaiba slashed his fare in half and then half that, then I'd say Yaiba offers some of the most mindless fun on the planet for an evening in after watching Ryu Kitamura's Versus or something. It's just built badly, it just ticks boxes. Why zombies? Why all the bottom of the barrel sexual references? Why the cell shading? What's with the Borderlands 2 style splash screens? It's like they drew up a list of marketable features and built the game around that. Yaiba isn't bad because it's not Ninja Gaiden, it's bad due to elements within its own little world. Yaiba may spend the entire game trying to hunt down and kill Hayabusa, but somehow I don't think this cybernetic ninja has what it takes to replace Ninja Gaiden.